So I wanted to become a pilot. We didn't have financial freedom at that point in time. So I turned from a boy to a man at Citi because I also had a few trips back then, not only to Singapore but also to UAE to come and meet, to come and network people, and understand the nuances of business locally. And UAE was also thriving at that point in time, purely from a digital space. It was exploding because every new model that was explored outside, either in the west or in the east, would naturally mushroom into the UAE. And then I think became, you're either very brave or I think you're completely foolish. So we did not even have a finance team, right? There was no finance, there was no accounts. To my surprise, it was being run on Excel. And when I had a look, I'm like, guys, this cannot happen.
Hey, welcome back to the next episode of CopaTalks, the ultimate CFO podcast brought to you by Bluecopa. Here, we bring you unfiltered access to conversations with veteran finance leaders covering key milestones and challenges in their journey through stories. In today's episode, we are speaking with Varun Gehani, the head of risk and compliance at E14, the latest fintech player from the house of etisalat, UAE's largest telecom provider. From starting his career across various traditional financial institutions like the Citi Group and the ADCB, doing credit risk analysis, to becoming a finance leader across modern fintech players like the Postpay and E14, Varun's career has had an interesting path. Join us as we explore that and everything in between. Let's go.
Hey Chief, super glad to have you on the show. Welcome.
Pleasure is mine.
We've been planning this for a very long time, but I'm really super excited to have this conversation with you. So thank you for taking the time.
No, pleasure is mine, as I said, but yeah, indeed, my bad too. I think we couldn't fetch in some time in the calendar to pin this in.
No worries, busy leaders, busy days. Got
Lovely
it.
to be here.
Yeah, so I think we should take it from the top. Why don't you give me some context into how all of this started? How did you get into the world of finance? What were your initial days looking like? Would love to know that.
Sure. Yeah, I think starting from the beginning, if you're saying so, born and brought up in Mumbai, through the hustling suburban neighborhood there. And I think initially when I picked up chartered accountancy, I was always an average boy, timid and introvert, never used to like speaking aloud. And yeah, since then, I think there was just this love for maths and science that I discovered. And that happened through, I think, the age of 13, 14. But at that point in time, the moment you have love for maths and science, the go-to would be engineering.
Yeah.
And I just had the thirst for speed, so I wanted to become a pilot. We didn't have financial freedom at that point in time, so I kind of took it on my chin. I said, okay, I'm going to pick up something that aligns with this love for maths, not science so much, and I'll pick up the cheapest course available. So in that quest, because being from a Sindhi Indian native, business comes naturally, right? And so was it in my blood, and my father was just trying to find it, but he couldn't. And then I started up with chartered accountancy. Has been a ride and a half, yeah. I think since the time I started till I concluded the journey in 2008, and from there about, from there about, no looking back. Honestly, I think God's also been kind. Given us enough and more, I'd say. So yeah, started off my journey there as a trainee. Of course, like all of us do in the chartered accountancy field, you do the articleship for about 2 years, and then quickly realized audit wasn't something that I really loved. So picked up industrial training with Citibank, and I keep saying this that. I turned from a boy to a man at Citi because I started there as a trainee, and then they
You're giving me too
absorbed
many
me.
headlines to use for this podcast.
Oh, really? Yeah. So then, it was a good 4.5 year journey at Citi Mumbai. I started off with credit risk management, did a bit of portfolio and risk analysis, reg reporting, and I think in 2 years I realized I was getting into the comfort zone, and I think you'll keep hearing a lot from me on this particular subject. That I just don't like being in the comfort zone for long. I think your
Okay.
learning absolutely stops if you continue
Yeah.
for longer. You will just be in that small cocoon. You will never move out, and
True.
so would your outlook also.
True.
So yeah, 2 years raised my hands and moved into securities and fund services. Did that for about 2 years, and yeah, that was just about the beginning of chartered accountancy and my days in Mumbai.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So during these 4 years, essentially with the City Group, what were your days looking like? I understand that you were into risk analysis, portfolio management, and stuff. But how would your day be like? I will sneak peek into it.
Yeah, I think as you start your career, of course, it's not going to be a leadership role. So it was a complete hustle, not a hustle as a startup, but still hustle in a large, heavy bank. So day to day is going to be more or less operational, I'd say. The first role was fairly involved in operations, which is you have a few deadlines to meet in terms of the risk analysis that you do, reports that you present, just sway by the flow. And then the next one was a front end role. So that was dealing with top mutual fund clients in India.
Mm-hmm.
You would know quite a few, of course, DSP, Reliance, Pramerica, and all of these. Where I used to be the face for Citi,
Okay.
and yeah, that went along for about 2.5 years. But yeah, I think the one thing that I learned there is you cannot switch off in this role. And it just took a lot out of me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't reach home before 10 or 11, and you are dead by then, and you won't be surprised if you still get a client call at about 11:30,
Yeah.
and you would still answer, right? It's
Yeah.
not that it's a compulsion, but yeah, I think still just out of your own gut, you'll feel like, yeah, this client is
So it
mine.
was it was putting you out of your comfort zone, but in a slightly different way.
Yeah, but I realized, I think over a year and a half, 2 years, is that if I keep doing this more, it's
Yeah.
going to um, fully drain me, energy consumption in terms of your day to day, as well as the hustling thing that you have within, I'd say.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Got it. And right after this, something peculiar happened. So I'm more curious about knowing that.
Yeah, I think, of course, one thing is we got married, and
Okay.
and immediately after, of course, I was still looking for something exciting because this was close to burning me down. So,
Mhm.
thanks to my exposure with Citi, I think I understood what a MNC bank in the financial capital of India would offer as a career, right?
Yeah.
And once you get a glimpse of that, you know what is it that you want. Have you reached the peak? You haven't reached the peak. So
Yeah.
what was it after? Possibly for me back there would be a couple of juggles in different units,
Yeah.
and that would go either from treasury to private banking. Or to something else, but I wanted to explore my boundaries and dream big. So yeah, I kind of narrowed down on a few countries that I'd like to consider moving.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think Dubai and Singapore, UAE and Singapore, I'd say
Yeah.
more or less tick the bill. And yeah, God's been kind enough for me to go ahead and explore both of these countries.
Hmm.
So I did that while choosing or narrowing down on these two countries. And yeah, and that's when one of the positions kind of clicked in 2000, yeah, in 2012,
Yeah.
end of 2012. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Uh, so I'm just
yeah,
going to throw a couple of slightly generic or out of topic questions to you. One is, why do you
please.
pick Dubai over Singapore or UAE over Singapore? And essentially, what were the parameters do you consider when you probably look for a new geography, a new role, or a new opportunity in a new geography?
Oh,
That story.
yeah, I think I'm going to try and travel back in time and think why, because I'm going to give you a completely colored picture today if I answered with today's lens.
Mm.
So yeah, I think at that point in time, 2 to 3 factors I'd say. I think one was since I was the only child, it had to be proximity to home. So
Yeah.
I can't be like 10 hours away. that I can't come back on
True.
one phone call. That was one. Second was the opportunities that you would get in the world of finance, right?
Yeah.
And I think Singapore and UAE, both of them tick the bill. Um, and third, more or less, was also there shouldn't be any language barrier. Because what I realized working at Citi India, when you're speaking to a lot of colleagues externally, whether it's Europe, it's somewhere in Asia as well, people really love their languages, which is fair enough. But day-to-day business, as well as the way you conduct your discussions with
Yep.
others in different countries, also continues more or less in same language, and then
Yep.
you have to translate. So it does not really I feel it wouldn't really help you grow in those countries where there's a big language barrier. So yeah, I think these three.
Got it. Got it. And what helped you narrow it down to ADCB in specific? Any insights there?
Um, so no, of course, at that point in time, 14, 13 years ago, when you were considering for a move externally or, anywhere outside India, and a few boxes are ticked, which is the two countries, including your domain, which is banking. So
Yeah.
I think you would grab it with both hands, right? But
True.
the amount of effort that you take, so I'd say it's a combination of effort and luck.
Mm-hmm.
I also had a few trips back then, not only to Singapore but also to UAE to come and meet, to come and network people,
Mm-hmm.
and understand the nuances of business locally. Because as we see today, like if you ask me that, Varun, you have a position here to be filled, why would I look at someone from India, right?
Yeah.
Unless I know of that person, I know this person is going to come in and add a lot of value. There's a lot of talent available here. Why would I consider
True.
that?
True.
So yeah, to kill in those thoughts, and back in the day, I think you would also have these premium consulting packages that used to be sold on monster.com and naukri.com, and I wasn't shy away from picking anything and everything. I spent a lot of money there, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think finding a job is also a job, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you need to spend enough time, money, effort
Correct.
to find the right one.
True that. True that. True that. However, this stint was short-lived, from my understanding. Right? You decided to go back
Yeah,
to the city group, but in the Middle East this time. So, what was
yeah.
the story there? Any particular?
Yeah, so I came in UAE. Of course, this position was in Abu Dhabi. It wasn't in Dubai. So yeah, we had a bit of a run around on this. So I would live in Dubai and go to Abu Dhabi.
Oh,
Didn't sound
right.
super sustainable because my wife would be working on the other side of the town.
Okay.
So I mean, like it or no, we would just come home to sleep. That's about it. That was the life on weekdays. But I've lived that life in Bombay, so I know how it
Yeah.
is. The only thing is, yeah, is this sustainable, and for how long?
Correct.
And again, at that point in time, I think it was more of a pull from Citi than anything otherwise. So they were kicking off their commercial banking division, and someone kind of reached out, hey, would you like to come in and see us? And mind you, this was not an easy process. I felt coming back to Citi would be like really easy. It's just a tick in the box. It wasn't. I went through, I think, 4 or 5 rounds of interviews. They did a quick background check for me in India. I spoke to my bosses there and whatnot. So yeah, it wasn't that super easy or a cakewalk
Take work.
as
Yeah.
I would think. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. So, quick question. So, all the while you were into ADCB, and now again coming back to City, you are into the space of credit risk analysis,
Yeah.
commercial banking, and
Yeah. All in all, it was credit risk. Yeah. Earlier in City India, as I said, was credit risk briefly, then securities and fund services, then
Mhm.
ADCB again credit risk, and then I switched into the switch to City also happened in the risk analysis space in credit itself.
Got it.
Joined them as a senior underwriter and then grew as the senior approver.
Understood. So, in the let's say 7 odd years that you've been with City in the Middle East, what sort of new challenges did you take up apart from this? Did anything come to your plate? I know I'm asking you this particularly because you are someone who's always putting yourself in the outside the comfort zone, right? So what was it?
Yeah. Again, so the bug within me, I could just keep it silent for 2 years, and then again after 2 years, the bug just erupted, and I moved from credit to business. I did not
Okay.
stay a long time in credit. So yeah, it was a good challenge. A lot of folks around could not digest or fathom that at that point in time because no one from City UAE had done that earlier.
Yeah.
But I think I felt I had it in me to give that a shot, and yeah, I did business for about three and a half years,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, again after three and a half years, something erupted, and I switched within the business team to a digital strategy piece, and that was more about interacting with the fintechs, e-coms company, the new digital world, as we say,
Yeah.
to see what Citi as a bank can add value to these companies. So that was not only bringing them to Citi, but also try and develop products for them. In all, being get something like a holistic view
Yeah.
for them as a bank.
And I'm assuming this was the right timing also, simply because most of the modern businesses were just stabilizing, right? E-commerce was just stabilizing. People are adopting to it. Uh, the mindset of being completely offline to an online buying experience, all of them were just settling in. So these modern businesses might, I mean, your exposure towards these would also have
Yeah.
been good.
Yeah, absolutely. Rightly said. And UAE was also thriving at that point in time, purely
Yeah,
from a digital space. It was exploding because every new model that was explored outside, either in the West or in the East, would naturally mushroom into the UAE. And then I think became a rage of homegrown startups here.
yeah,
That's not only e-commerce. It started from e-commerce, went to fintech, then regtech, automobile. So yeah, a lot of these. So I felt the timing was right,
yeah.
and so I just quickly jumped into it.
Got it. Speaking of homegrown startups and fintech, I would love to know how, someone who's done a lot of credit risk analysis, who's grown his career there, and eventually moved to business and found a success there as well. Eventually, move out to become the CFO of a fintech company. This is a very interesting piece where I want to listen from you. So tell us, yeah,
Yeah, I think again moving out of the comfort zone, but to move from such a structured place to a fintech, wherein I think I was employee number 14 or employee number 15.
yeah.
You're either very brave or I think you're completely foolish. That's the, that's the
Is there
thought
a
that kind of
difference?
came in. Yeah, I don't know. Brave and foolish, not a great combination though, but.
Got it. Got it.
So I knew of the founders at Postpay, and that's how they kind of reached out. It took me a while. It took them a while to convince me to jump the ship
Yeah.
because wasn't also easy for me. Of course, I was also I spent good amount of time in the digital space at City. I spent
Yeah.
2.5 years, and then yeah, knowing me, I was just looking for the next challenge, whether that comes inside or outside. But I was just eluded to this startup fintech world. It also marries a lot of my skills today that I had
Yeah. Yeah.
at that point in time, which is not only risk but strategy, understanding payments, understanding how the banking or the leg behind works, so to say, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And then I then felt it was more about my time to kind of go try and contribute in all different areas rather than just in one particular area. So same logic, right? Small fish, big pond, or
Yeah.
big fish, small pond. So the level of contribution in a startup is nothing short of running your own gig, I'd say, and it's a 360-degree contribution. Starts not only from um, agility, but I think the sense of creation that you get, and that was second to none. I think
Got
that's
it.
what kind of just pulled me there.
I have two follow-up questions here. The first one being,
Is
was buy now pay later as a concept thriving in that particular point in time,
yeah.
because of which you also had conviction and the founders had conviction, And the following question is, how are the whole fintech space in the early 2020s?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think payments was more or less thriving at that point in time, and then this lovely poster child of the world emerged as buy now pay later.
Yeah,
We saw a lot of success across the globe. We saw Afterpay, you saw Klarna, you saw Affirm in the US.
yeah,
So yeah, I think this wasn't a fad as we say, and it was there to stay.
hmm,
So and in the UAE, it was very initial days. I think 2020, 21. That's when three of the BNPL players started together,
yeah,
ourselves and three other competitors actually, and yeah, I think it was a natural transition for me. I didn't feel whether BNPL um, is here to stay or it's not here to stay. Yeah, I think we've
and
seen
that's what
enough
the skill set.
globally.
Yeah,
Yeah. We've seen enough globally because if you see the cycles outside, everyone had seen not only one but two to three different cycles,
yeah,
and two to three different business cycles, so to say. And once the business has kind of stood there for two to three business cycles, then
yeah,
you would feel yes, this is a strong business model and it's here
yeah.
to stay.
Back
Um,
in India, as well, I think we had a couple of stories, right? Zest Money, Simple was also a BNPL
yeah, simple pay,
player.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite a few, and honestly, I think in India also we attracted a lot of global capital.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Got it.
so
So,
yeah,
quick question on the early days. How was your day being the 14th employee, which essentially means there were a lot of groundwork.
yeah,
Uh, how did your day look like then? And cut to like 3 years since post or 3 years after joining Postpay, how was your day being the CFO?
yeah, very interesting. Started off with super hustling days. So it's like calming one fire with the other, and this you still have to calm fires, but you should still have a smile on your face, right? So
Yeah.
that's
If you don't mind
how
sharing,
the
what
days used
kind
to
of
be.
fires would those be? Would it be like a technical
So it
problem?
could be anything and everything. Could because you're the leader in the organization. So it was just myself along with the CEO primarily,
Yeah,
of course our CTO, and then we kind of scaled up because the primary functions. If you want to say in probably a BNPL fintech startup, you should have a fundamental tech in place, fundamental tech layer in place, which is coupled with good commercial team and a good underwriting team. I think this is what you need all in all
yeah,
to get a good BNPL fintech gig going. So we did that fairly well, and then yeah, I think I started ground up. So we did not even have a finance team, right? There was
okay.
no finance, there was no accounts. To my surprise, it was being run on Excel, and when I had a look, I'm like, guys, this cannot happen. Uh, One of our colleagues from HR used to assist us in accounts, and yeah, so it had to be built ground up. Of course, the CEO was fairly hands-on. Like Tariq was fairly hands-on on a lot of stuff. So you did not have to bother about commercial, marketing, product, etc. Over and above that was just kind of building the right blocks around it,
Yeah,
which was your credit underwriting, data operations, and then slowly and surely I started picking up a lot of stuff by myself, which was not only finance and accounting, but also data, credit, as well as operations at the fag end of it. So I also led customer service and customer experience for the longest time.
understood.
So yeah, it was just building ground up. Wonderful experience. I don't think I'll trade that with anything else.
So this transformation from like bunch of Excel spreadsheets to, let's say, like a robust process with some technology
Yeah,
involved, uh, how did it happen? How long did it take? How did you go about doing it? Did you build an in-house team that got it done? Did you
yeah.
have get some external help, some
Yeah.
high level?
So yeah, I think you start building block by block, but as long as your strategy is fairly clear in your head. So you take a A4, you draw out what do you want to see in the next 3 years, how sophisticated a business that you want to build in the next 3 years, and then you place different parameters and benchmarks, right?
Got it.
Because as you start, you can't hire 20 people in finance. That's not going to fit the bill.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to look at each other and say, hey guys, why am I here for? You need to build slowly and surely. So you start building those blocks. You get a finance manager, you get an accountant, you see how the business is scaling up. Then you would need someone in treasury. Then you would need someone more like, assistant to me who can just run around. That's more about a fp&a rule, as we say today. And all around this, I think if you were to tie everything together, um, it would take, I think, at least a year to 2 years for a finance team to be built to a full scale. It can't be built overnight, I'd say. A lot of models these days come up in the way that finance teams are outsourced, whether it's to India or to other countries, as we see. I don't think thoroughly it works. It would work for a few cases, and don't get me wrong, where your requirements are small, but not like a lending fintech startup where you need active monitoring of a lot of things.
Correct. Correct. Got it. All right, quickly moving on from that onto your latest challenge now. When we met in person last year, you were just in the
Yeah,
midst of the transition.
yeah,
So you could offer me very little insight into it. So I think the timing has come now. Tell us
is yeah.
how did Ian Money happen, and what are you doing there right now? How does your day look like? What are
Sure,
the
sure,
challenges
sure,
you're
sure.
solving for them?
I think, of course, there's a bit of a pre-clue to it. The amount of time that I spent at Postpay, so it was about close to 3.5 years, and I think when you enter a company where you are employee number 12, 13, it's more or less your company, right?
Now, I
So
just want
yeah,
to
I
put
gave it all.
there.
Sorry.
You spent three and a half startup years because
Yeah. So it's
your
close
startup
to
years are
6 years.
amplified.
Correct. Yeah, and I think in all honesty, I gave it all there, right? So it also took me a while to fathom what is the next step that I want to consider. So I was like really easy, didn't want to really jump into anything. The business at Postpay was pivoting into more of a SaaS play, and hence
Okay.
my contribution as a true CFO in terms of fundraising, as well as running an active finance team, running an active risk team. Operations would still be there, but these three functions that I said was slightly narrowed down, right? So it
Yeah.
faded a bit, and hence the quench for thirst, right, as to what
Comfort
next.
zone.
So yeah. So then I could have lived there, of course, very nice and easy for a few more years, but not fun, right? I think the day you wake up in the morning and you feel, oh man, I'm not at the right place.
Yeah.
I think you should start thinking.
Correct. Correct.
So, and then I knew of the folks at Ian Money through Business Connects,
Mm-hmm.
including the CEO. And yeah, I think it was more of a pull. So they knew of me too. And
Pardon me here.
yeah, they were.
Isn't Money one of the very new fintech play? I mean, fintech wing that was established by the Ian Group.
So, E&, as we know, is the largest telecom player here
Yeah.
in the UAE. They kicked off a fintech piece about 5 years ago.
Okay.
Didn't kick off in the most truest spirit. And then in the last 3 years, I think the answer to that was more of a E& Money 2.0,
Okay.
wherein we built in a very clear strategy of where we want to be over the next 3 to 5 years.
Right.
That's how this came in real, true shape and form.
Got it.
Today, we do about triple digit plus $1 million in terms of international money transfers.
Okay.
We do P2P payments, one of the first and the largest to have, the quickest to have prepaid cards in terms of 1 million customers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's where we are. It's more than just a mobile wallet, I'd like to say.
Got it. Got it. And given that you're the head of risk and compliance here, how does your typical day look like? Given because there are multiple kinds of businesses within E and Money that you're
Yeah,
talking about, more
yeah.
B2B and B2C. Tell us.
Yeah, so I think initially we started off with B2B as well as B2C, but now we've pivoted to be a pure B2C player.
Okay.
My role, all in all, of course, is as you know, it's risk as well as compliance, and that not only limits to enterprise risk or operational risk, it's also credit risk, of course.
Yeah.
So credit piece we are yet to kick off. We
Mm-hmm.
should be kicking off in the next quarter or so.
Okay.
So more of the time is going on operational enterprise risk as well as compliance. I think that's the biggest biggest elephant in the room.
Mhm.
So stitching all the missing pieces, tying the knots together in terms of right from policies to execution. That's not only looking at your AML stuff, but also your controls
Yeah.
from every regulatory angle, gap analysis, etc. There is a good team here, of course, and all credit to the team. They've also built in a good amount of processes and controls since the time they started,
Mm-hmm.
which is, yeah, as I said, about 2 to 3 years ago.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think for me to come in, and craft a strategy to which we kind of adhere to and ensure we don't, move away from the road that we've laid.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, I think that's the most important
And
thing.
I also remember you mentioning that you were building the team
Yeah,
also, right? How has that come up now?
that's come along fairly well. It's you don't have to sell the e and brand to a lot of people. So yeah, it's come along very well. I particularly I like to choose people myself. So
Mhm.
there's the only right recipe I feel is hiring superstars. And how do you find one is not until you know one, right? So you will if you worked with a few guys earlier, or you rely on hands-on, first-hand experiences that a lot of my friends in the community have kind of worked with.
Yeah.
That helps a lot. And what we look for people, and me in particular, is all three skills, right? Right from at least at mid and higher levels, is how does this person work on the strategy piece, which is aligning on your 1, 3, 5 year plan.
Yeah.
And then second is, of course, a good leader. If you have to lead a team of at least two, three,
Yeah.
if you yourself are lost, I don't know how will you guide the team. And then the third one is execution, right?
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with that too. So yeah, I think all three facets, once you tick the three boxes, uh, yeah, I think you're a good fit for a hire.
Got it. Got it. Understood. And all right, I think that's enough. Finance or job description in specific.
Sure.
Just want to know at a high level, how's the whole finance ecosystem in Dubai? Because I've had, and I'm guessing you would already know, right? Jarna was in the podcast a few months ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was asking her, how is the opportunity shaping up? What industries are thriving? How can someone now probably who's had 50, 20 years in India would want to come to Dubai and settle there, become a CFO there, and stuff like that. So she had some insights to share. Would love to know what your POV on this is.
Yeah, I think the way the synergies have kind of built in over the last few years between India as well as Middle East,
Yeah.
second to none again. Um, there was the tax element which was missing in UAE, which has now also come in. So the need for chartered accountants is more and more.
Yeah.
Wherein earlier it was just restricted to primarily finance roles, or maybe audit for that matter.
Yep.
But yeah, I think tax is one full realm that has opened up very lately. I think the other piece is, and purely I briefly alluded earlier, is the fp&a role. So
Yeah.
what I see is people are not looking for guys who just understand the accounting piece, but smarter finance individuals who know what they're talking,
Yep.
who know business in and out, and that's when you can apply your financial knowledge. I think the need for those individuals has really grown, and that's not only in the startup or the fintech space. I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
it's across, because
Got it.
right from SMEs, MMEs to larger corporations,
Yep.
which would anyways, I think large corps would already have a FP&As defined. But what I've seen is a shift in the thought process of mid and low scale enterprises
Yep.
to build in and to build in a role like a FP&A, and get in people who are intelligent finance professionals.
Understood. Understood. Got it. All right. Again, now we are coming outside of finance as well in as a theme.
Sure.
Been told that you are an adventure buff. You love all sort of sports, cricket in specific, and you also love motor racing. So, how did all of this happen? I know you are from Bombay, so Chennai.
Quench for speed, man. Since the time I wanted to be a pilot. uh, Yeah, so since that I always had this, and yeah, I was an avid Formula One follower. Was I say I'm not an avid follower today. I follow the sport briefly, but not an avid follower. Like earlier, I would my Sundays Sunday afternoons would just go in watching the
In
Formula One race,
watching
like
it.
wherever it is. Yeah,
What
but it's
faded
now.
away?
Yeah,
Which era did
sorry.
you fade away?
I think V8 to V6
Hmm.
sustainability number one, and the second one was refueling. I think the
Yeah.
moment that refueling stopped, the excitement stopped.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, when I moved in here, it was a bit of an effort to track Formula One because Sundays would be working. It's now
Yeah.
off. Like now we are aligned to the global calendar,
Yeah.
but the work week was Sunday to Thursday. So I would have to actually record the race and come home and bang, first is watch the race because I would switch off my social media. I would not want to see anything till I watch the race live. So yeah, that went on for a while, but then yeah, after that I picked up my passion for cricket again. I used to be a part of my school, college, my first child accountancy team.
Wow.
Played at all the grounds in Bombay, Oval, Medan, and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that bug again bit me, and yeah, I think I've been following cricket for followed and played now. I think again in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
So yeah,
We
really
have a
enjoying it.
semi-final in few more hours.
Traveled a lot. Once again, sorry, missed you.
We have a semi-final in few more hours, so finger crossed.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely geared up for that. Yeah, yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Got it. And what about? I also see you, interested in motorbikes. So what's that?
Yeah, so I think biker by DNA. So
Okay.
always used to ride a two-wheeler back in India. Started since since the age of
Do you
16,
do that
17,
in?
18.
Do you do that actively in Dubai now?
In Dubai as well. Yeah, yeah, 100%. I had a lot of backlash from my mother and my wife to not go and own a bike. I somehow escaped them and bought a Ducati for myself a few
Wow.
years ago. Loved riding here, but unfortunately, it's not as super safe as we think here because when you have the throttle in your hand and the speed limit is 120, 140, you're tempted to hit that. Yeah, so a couple of rides that I did with the Ducati fellows, unfortunately we had an incident here and there, and
Yeah.
that kind of got me thinking of these are roads that I'm riding on,
Yep.
public roads, and these are not tracks. So yeah, then I gave up yeah, on my Ducati, sold my bike. I said I don't need a bike anymore. I think I've grown up. And then a few years later, I said, man, this is not happening. Like I'm missing something in life. I'm
Yep.
missing that, the freedom of riding a bike is absolutely unparalleled. So
Yep.
then I got myself a fit for age bike, which is a Harley, and I ride that now. Yeah. So it's lovely. I of course also had a great trip to Leh Ladakh. That was one of the bucket list
Oh, nice.
on my bucket list for a few years. Yeah. So better late than never. Always there are butterflies that
Is it
are
in
you still
Mumbai?
no, bike is here. No,
Ah.
the trip I meant, the trip was in Leh Ladakh.
So you brought the bike to India and then you took the trip.
No, so they actually have the bikes that they give themselves. So it's a
Okay,
rented
okay.
bike by themselves. Yeah, yeah.
So
It's
you went
a
with the gang that.
Royal Enfield Himalayans. Yeah, I went with a troupe who organized these tours. A lovely experience. I think if you love riding bikes, I don't think you should miss this. Wonderful.
Got it, got it. This side of Varun is a little new to me, so I'm really loving this. Great.
Yeah, yeah. I sometimes also go to office on my bike, so
Hmm.
yeah, people
Oh, perfect.
are
Nice. What compliments
yeah.
do you get?
No, I keep my face hidden because I'm not sure if someone from the other side thinking the head of risk and compliance is coming on a bike. Is that risk averse or is this is he a risk taker? But yeah, I think calculative risk, right? So
Correct, correct. Got it, got it. Great. So, Chief, now coming towards the last two sections that I, really want to discuss with you in brief. One is with
sure.
regards to the hottest topic within finance, within risk and compliance, which is AI, and the second
Yeah.
one is with regards to like a note to self. Right? We'll eventually get to that, but before that,
Okay.
with regards
Note to
to
self.
AI,
Okay. Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how is the global trend looking like with regards to AI in risk and finance, keeping finance in mind? And secondly, a follow up to that is How are you sort of implementing it at EN Money today?
Right. I think if you're away from AI these days and if you're not catching up with pace, you're going to be left out. In some way or the other, if you're not embracing it, you're going to be left out very soon.
Yeah.
This is the industrial revolution that is happening, and you cannot miss out. You have to be ahead of your time. Like
Right.
it or no, you need to embrace it. Lot of developments have happened in risk and compliance categorically, right from process automation to behavioral scorecard, so to say, at risk. I'll give you one or two instances how we use AI.
Yeah.
Um, for one particular is for credit risk. So we use alternate based lending. That's alternate methods of lending, which is not the traditional bureau based lending. We
Yeah.
look at customer behavior, and there are algorithms at the back end which are tailored to pick up good and bad behavior of individuals.
Hmm.
And these machine learning algorithms would actually then define whether I should be lending to Varun. Varun is a good guy or not a good guy.
Right.
This is one such example. Second one that I can say is RPAs, which is robotics process automation.
Hmm.
What happens here in our case in particular, compliance and risk, is there are a lot of mundane tasks that you have today,
Yeah.
and so and in a very lame example probably, but I'll still say it. You have macros in Excel, right?
Yeah.
Which you define a few steps, and these macros
Yes.
will actually, the macro will conclude it.
Yeah.
Similar for robotic process automations, you define a specific task, saying
Yeah.
you need to pull up Varun's records from here. You need to go and check into six different
Yeah.
lists whether Varun is a genuine guy, is he a terrorist or whatnot. And then you also have an internal database. Go and check through this, and finally publish a result for a human to actually sit and do the analytical stuff rather than these operational stuff. So this is an absolute use case, and it's not only us at E and Money, but E and as a franchise is using it phenomenally well.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Getting to the note to self piece, what are a couple of advices that Varun would offer to his younger self, or if Varun was the younger self today, in terms of taking things ahead, in terms of the comfort zone, all things, Varun, how would you advise your younger self?
Yeah, interesting. My younger 12-year-old, as I see back in my memory, I think first thing would be read more.
Hmm.
You need to be completely curious. You need to be future fit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be out of race very soon.
Got it.
Second, and I think probably the first one or followed through, the first would be dream big. Uh, don't be don't have finite boundaries either to your career, role, domain, countries, etc.
Yeah.
Everything. Dream off and dream more. And yeah, I think one more advice that I've lately picked on myself is exercise. I think we neglect health in the teenage days a lot, and it becomes way more difficult for you to pick that up. I was a nocturnal animal earlier, and it took me a lot of effort to change my cycle. And yeah, I think it's just with discipline that you're able to do it. The
Yes.
earlier you learn this discipline, as we say, muscle memory in sport,
Correct.
the earlier you will get to this. And yeah, I think one more point would be the way you interact with people.
Hmm.
People won't remember what you said in 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, maybe, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
I think that is extremely important. The way you treat people, not only just as a leader, but as a friend and otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a final statement would be the best is yet to come. Every morning you wake up and yeah,
Yeah.
wait for the best.
Very good. Very good points. I think I'll just take this clip and keep it in my phone so that I listen to this.
No, you're joking.
Great.
No way.
Uh, on this note, I just want to probably ask you give a note to self in a slightly different point of view, which is if Varun
Sure.
were to, if Varun were in Mumbai today and wants to move to Dubai for an opportunity, what are two three things
Sure.
that you would tell him to be prepared?
Um, a qualified individual with a 15 plus years of work experience, I think first is you know what your skills are. You should know what your skills are, what skills are transferable,
Yeah,
which are geography agnostic. You understand that very well.
yeah,
Second is if you're looking to move either to Middle East or to any other country, know the market well.
yeah,
You know where you would want to pitch yourself. Do a lot of homework. As I said earlier, finding a job is also a job. You cannot just wake up here one morning and say, "Hey, Varun, I'm looking for a position," without having a head or tail of the business, of the UAE market. It'll be a big put off.
true.
Um, yeah, and I think the third thing would be network. People are really approachable on social media these days. You can reach out. Like I don't have any message on LinkedIn that's unanswered. It'll be a shame on me if I would not answer messages of either juniors or colleagues or anyone else who would an industry peer who would want to reach out. So I think that's a phenomenal way to reach out to people. Don't miss out on that. And that's including not only just business peers but uh, also consultants that help you find the right position, because that works fairly well as well in the UAE. Consultants as well as LinkedIn, I think these two are phenomenal tools.
Wonderful. Great. I think very good closing note. And that's pretty much it with regards to what I had for today. Thank you so much for taking the
Wonderful.
time, Chief. It was really lovely listening to your stories as well as the cute anecdotes that came out for all the folks who are listening here. So thank you once again for taking the time.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you so much. Honored to be here.